Discipline, the word alone, makes most people flinch. It sounds like chains, like sacrifice, like the opposite of freedom. But Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, saw discipline for what it truly is, not a prison, but the key to unlock the prison you've built inside your own mind. Discipline is not your enemy. It's the bridge between who you are and who you could be. Without it, your potential rots in the shadows, while your excuses parade in daylight. Jung warned us, the parts of yourself you refuse to discipline, your impulses, your distractions, your hidden laziness, will one day discipline you in ways you can't escape. They'll sabotage your dreams, drain your willpower, and whisper lies that you were never meant for greatness. Most people beg for motivation. Few build discipline. Motivation fades the moment life tests you. But discipline stands when you're tired, broken, lost. Jung's wisdom cuts deeper than any self-help slogan. If you do not choose your suffering through discipline, life will choose it for you through regret. So watch closely, because after this, you won't just understand discipline, you'll crave it, and you'll never dare to run from it again. There's a moment when the noise dies down, and what's left behind is shame. Not because you did wrong, but because you did nothing at all. Carl Jung said, your undisciplined self is not lazy. It's banished, and it's begging to come back home. No one talks about what it does to a man, watching himself break the same promise, day after day, whispering tomorrow, knowing tomorrow never comes, passing the mirror, feeling that bitter twist in your gut, not because you hate what you see, but because you don't trust him anymore. You swear you'll change, you swear you'll start, you believe it for a few fleeting hours, then dawn hits, and the man who vowed vanished, replaced by the same weary face, scrolling, running, hiding, again. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. So what if this avoidance, this lack of discipline, is not laziness, but a spiritual exile from the future you're meant to hold? That's where we begin. What if I told you, the you who's tired, scattered, lost in distraction, is not you, it's just the mask you rehearse every day? If this stirs something in you, don't just sit there, subscribe. Because this place, this voice, it speaks for the parts of you no one else sees. They taught you disciplines about effort. That's a lie. Disciplines, not effort. Disciplines, identity. And you'll never breathe discipline until you stop pretending you gotta become it. Sounds strange? Stay with me. Once you see it, the war you fight every morning starts to make sense. Jung knew most souls never touch who they are, not because they don't grind, but because they stay strangers to their own sleeping power. They hunt change out there, a new job, new setting, new system, a spark of motivation. But listen close, you don't need more. You need less. Less escape, less noise, less hiding from the one shadow you feared more than anything else. Responsibility, not to your boss, not to your parents. Responsibility to your own becoming. The sacred pact between who you are and who you were meant to be. This is where discipline lives. Not in checklists, not in 5 a.m. alarms. It lives in devotion. Think, when did you feel most alive? Not in pleasure, not in rest. You felt it when you were aligned, when you kept your word, when you shocked yourself, did what you swore you couldn't. That feeling, it wasn't just pride, it was integrity. And Jung would say, that's no accident. Your psyche, it craves unity. It wants to integrate. The more you fracture it, say one thing, do another, the more your mind rebels. You feel that drag, not because you're lazy, but because your mind rejects the fraud you're pretending to be. That's what most never see. Lack of discipline ain't the disease. It's the symptom of a split soul. You're divided. One half writes the goals, the other half tears them down. One side builds, the other side vanishes. And every time you spin that cycle, you ain't just losing time, you're deepening the split. Carl Jung warned, what you resist persists. The parts you abandon, they don't die, they wait, they grow into your shadow. Not just the broken scraps, but the disciplined part, the ambitious part, the ruthless, structured, powerful version of you, the one you locked away out of fear. Fear of failure, or worse, fear of your own strength. Yeah, your strength. That's what haunts you, isn't it? Because if you commit, if you become disciplined, you've got no one left to blame, no shield of potential left to hide behind. You'll stand there as proof, and that's terrifying, because once you're proof, there's no back door out of destiny. You're either rising or rotting, and the world's watching. But here's the sting, you're already dying. Every time you betray your own plan, abandon your priorities, smash snooze, scroll past your vow, trade your promise for cheap dopamine, you don't feel worn because of work, you feel worn because of guilt. Deep down, you know, this is not who you're meant to be. So hear this, not with your ears, feel it in your bones. Discipline is not something you tack on. Discipline's your soul's immune system. It guards you from spiritual decay, from regret, from waking up as a man who owns everything, except himself. Drop a comment when this hits. You might free someone still trapped in the place you've already healed. And now, remember there was a time you wanted this. Long before the noise, before the burnout, before you lost faith in your own hands. But your spirit, it didn't forget. It's been waiting, patient, silent, waiting for you to step back into that sacred fire, back to the forge where discipline was first hammered into you. We'll go there, we'll reignite it. But not yet, not until we tear out the root, because now we descend down to the birthplace of your undisciplined self, where the fracture began, why you rebel against structure, and how Jung's archetypes reveal the hidden identity, sabotaging every effort you make. This is not motivation, this is transformation. And once you see it, you'll never crawl back to who you were. You didn't become undisciplined by chance. You were trained, not in one blow, but in 1,000 tiny betrayals. Some carved by the world, some carved by your own hand. Somewhere down that line, you swallowed a story that you're the one who almost does it, the one who nearly changes, the one with potential that never quite arrives. But that story, it is not you. It's a survival mask, built from fear, rejection, abandonment, and those subtle cuts, the ones nobody saw bleed. And now, years later, that mask has become your identity. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So let's drag it into the light, not to relive, but to understand. Tell me, do you remember the first time discipline was punished in you? Maybe you spoke up, and they silenced you. Maybe you burned with excitement, and they mocked you. Maybe you built a routine, took pride in some small creation, only to watch someone tear it down, like it was nothing. That's where the fracture begins, not in laziness, but in pain. And here's the cruel twist. The disciplined part of you, the side that craves structure, control, focus, is also the most fragile. Because discipline demands belief. It demands faith in your own power. And when that faith gets shattered young, the disciplined self retreats. It goes into hiding. Jung named it the repression of the noble archetype. The king, the warrior, the architect of order and mastery. The part of your mind that wants to build empires. Command yourself, master time, energy, destiny. It's still there, but years of silent defeat twisted it. It doesn't stand tall, it lurks, not dead, just unclaimed. So when you try to build something, a habit, a dawn routine, a sharpened diet, a focused sprint, you're not starting from zero. You're standing before every ghost that ever whispered. You won't follow through. You never finish what you start. You're not the kind of man who can change. And unless you see this, you'll keep tearing yourself down. Not because you want to fail, but because some hidden part still believes you must. Here's the insight Jung left us. Your failures, they're almost never about effort. They're about identity. You can't outwork a self-image that contradicts what you're trying to become. You'll always crawl back to the man you believe you are. No matter how many tools, how many systems, how many tricks you try. So, how do we change that belief? Not with hype, not with hollow affirmations, with integration. Let's dig deeper. Picture two men inside you. One wants power, legacy, structure. He's focused, calm, sovereign, keeps his word, even in the dark. The other wants ease, comfort, disappearance. He dodges risk, flees from failure, shrinks from intensity. He wants warmth, not victory. These two men, they're not enemies. They're split versions of you. And as long as you reject one, you'll never be whole. Stop trying to kill the lazy part of you. Reclaim him. Speak to him. Ask him, what are you shielding me from? Because that lazy part, he ain't trying to ruin you. He's trying to protect you. Protect you from pain, from the sharp cut of disappointment, from the echo of laughter, the taste of rejection, the wound of being misunderstood. When you see this, discipline shifts. It is not a war, it's a return. A return to the throne you abandoned. A return to the center of your psyche, where the king archetype waits, watching, waiting. Not to dominate, but to stabilize. Jung knew every man must face his inner king. When he does, he stops performing, stops begging for permission. He begins to organize his life, not to impress the crowd, but to mirror the hierarchy he's restored inside. That's what discipline truly is. Psychological architecture, the outer reflection of inner order. And when a man lacks it, he doesn't just lose hours, he loses himself. This is why the undisciplined feel shame, even in empty rooms, because it's not about what they did or didn't do. It's about who they fear they're becoming. The fractured self is a haunted place. Unless you reclaim the lost archetypes, the builder, the warrior, the father, the guide, you'll keep clawing for motivation that never shows. Because here's the truth. You were never built to depend on motivation. You were meant to remember, to awaken. Walk through your day as a man who's already decided. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is the order I bring. And yes, it'll hurt. Yes, you'll fail, but failure won't define you anymore. Because identity comes before behavior. And once the identity shifts, behavior bends to follow. If you're still here, you already feel it. A part of you, waking up. Not the hyped up, frantic achiever, but the ancient one, the wise, structured, calm, relentless. The one who doesn't scream, he builds in silence. Now hear this. You can't fully reclaim discipline till you forgive yourself for the years you lost. This is not punishment. It is not regret. It's maturity. The immature man says, I'm broken. I must be fixed. The mature man says, I'm whole. I must be remembered. So remember, there was never anything wrong with you. You just forgot who you were. Every time you choose structure over chaos, presence over distraction, action over hesitation, you're not becoming someone new. You're returning. Returning to the man your younger self needed, the man your older self will thank you for. Jung named it, the greatest work of your life ain't success. It's individuation. Becoming whole, becoming real, uniting every fragmented piece into one living, breathing truth and discipline. It's the path to that truth. It's how you prove to your unconscious. You're safe, you're in control. The king has come home and reclaimed his throne. So I'll leave you with this. What would your life look like if you stopped living as a reaction and started living as a declaration? Because now we finish this journey. We'll talk about time, about death, about the war that keeps raging. When you run from order and the quiet, unshakable strength that comes when you stop waiting to feel ready and act like you were born to lead. This isn't about becoming productive. It's about becoming sovereign. And the final transformation waits for you. Time, it doesn't just pass, it accumulates. Every minute you stall, your discipline etches itself into your life. Not just as a missed chance, but as a brick in the architecture of regret. You don't just lose time, you get shaped by the loss. Carl Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." That line should haunt you. Not because it's cruel, but because it's the truest mirror you'll ever face. You don't need to wonder who you are. You're proving it every single day. Most don't even notice the drift. They just wake up one day, 10 years gone, and see the man staring back. He's not the man they admire. He's a version sculpted by delay, by hesitation, by old stories that sounded wise, but were fear, dressed up in reason. You weren't born lazy. You were trained to doubt your own power. And you've spent years dulling the edge of your ambition, grinding it down, so it wouldn't threaten anyone, not even you. Because real discipline, it changes the room. It's not loud, but it carries weight. And that weight unsettles those who've yet to rise. That's why you hid. That's why you let go. You wanted to stay close to the ones still sleeping, because waking up meant walking alone. But what if that loneliness was a test? What if your solitude wasn't punishment, but a passage? You need to grasp something most men never see, till it's far too late. Every time you betray your own potential, just to stay comfortable, you're practicing death. Not the death of flesh, but the slow rot of spirit, the fading of fire, the erosion of will, the quiet surrender of a man who once had hunger in his eyes, but now only excuses. Carl Jung didn't teach that. Meaning comes from chasing happiness. He showed us meaning is forged in confrontation, by looking the dragon dead in the eyes, the chaos, the failure, the pain, and stepping into it with open arms. Discipline is your sword in that fight. It won't erase fear, but it hands you something stronger. Direction, because every man is disciplined. The only question is, to what? Some are disciplined to their distractions, others to their addictions, many to the voices of doubt they inherited and never questioned. But few, very few, are disciplined to their becoming. And if you want to be one of them, you must accept this discipline is not a phase, it's not a grind, it's a way of relating to time. Listen, every time you choose what feels good now over what builds you later, you're telling time, I don't respect you. And time, like any sacred force, responds in kind. It turns against you. You feel late, stuck, like life's slipping through your grasp. Not because the world's unfair, but because you never honored what you were given. But once you realign, once you start living with reverence for time, your days shift, not on the surface, but deep within. You feel carried by rhythm, by purpose, by the calm that comes when life is no longer a reaction, but a ritual. So the next time you think about quitting early, remember this: you are not just skipping a workout or ignoring a routine. You are burying the part of yourself that longs to rise. Jung taught us that the battle is never just out there, it's within. Discipline is not a cage, it is the skeleton of your freedom. Without it, your potential rots in the dark. With it, you stand eye to eye with the chaos inside you, and you tame it, brick by brick, habit by habit, day by day. So ask yourself, who would you be if you didn't break your promise tonight? Who would you become if you kept showing up for the self that's begging to be built. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect day. Stand up, pick up your will like a sword, and march forward. The disciplined man is not the strongest or the smartest. He is simply the one who refused to betray himself. Be that man, be that woman, and you'll never run from discipline again, because you'll know it was never your enemy. It was you all along.